Chinese or whatever. But as it got to that the numbers of such armed men around him trying to, is it that he should not escape out of their hands or what? And beside that as well, now this is a lesson for all our leaders that we don't just take the country for granted. Now, all these things is coming back to haunt him. No peace for him. No, he's not focusing on what needs to do about his life. His family, they are all trouble, and all these things as a result of careless and reckless life. Well, let's just see what the outcome will be.
Yes, if you want to read more, you find it on page 26 of the Punch newspaper. Coup scares, 34 declared wanted. ECOWAS team arrives Syria alone. I found the story on page 25. And that's all from the Punch newspaper. John.
Okay, I have with me Vanguard and just very few news here from the front page. And it's about from the president desk that says Tinubu's new $8.6 billion loan bid takes debt above $51.759 billion. Request part of 2022 to 2024 external borrowing plan for critical infrastructure. President to present 2024 appropriation bill to joint session of NAS today. Total domestic debt as at June to 54.130 trillion naira. Analysts, experts seek proper utilization, accountability. That's on page 5 of Vanguard. And the other picture story I have is the felicitations. You can grab a copy of Vanguard to follow up on other stories in the paper. That's all from me this morning.
And I have with me here the Nigerian Tribune. And the headlines for this morning are Ayedatiwa, Ondo Speaker reveals details of deal brokered by Tinubu, highlights how Deputy Governor will sign undated resignation letter to be submitted to President, says he remains Ondo Deputy Governor, impeachment proceedings halted, take actions for still further crisis over Akeredolu's absence, Ondo Indigenous Rights Chief Justice. You can read that story on page 2 and 13. Niger Republic, Northern senators asked ECOWAS to lift sanctions, urged Tinubu to restore electricity supply, tasked military junta to roll out transition plan, released $8.6 billion, 100 million euro, 10 years. President says, I bear no grudge against media. Ekiti government sues Chef Dami's pastor involving the cookathon that Chef Dami did, and after then, she was the friendly pastor turned out to be harassing, to be unfriendly, harassing her, and she also had to sue her through his lawyer that she needs to apologize a payment of 22 million naira for damages done. So I think the human rights organization had to pick up her case and Arch 24.
Pastor.
Yes.
John, right? Pastor.
Because she said that if anything happens to her, they should sue her pastor.
Yes.
So she said it on social media. So
Yes.
And she wouldn't come out if there's nothing of such. And again, is that, well, it is not new. Jesus have already told us that pastors have, in the name of the Lord, in the name of pastor, have turned it into a business. And there have been a time we heard about a pastor who sold the church premises and the members to another pastor. It's sold now. So if a pastor, the lady is now in the limelight, the lady has now influence or have connections, and you are now trying to see how you can also be part of those that will eat out of our cake and trying to treat our life. That is something else.
That's very bad. But thank God they are still good. And
Okay, to continue reading that story, we can go to page 24 of the Nigerian Tribune. Minister of Power to prioritize metering, distribution, transmission infrastructure. You can read that story on page 7. Shoun of Ogbomosho to guest fraud. Emefiele yet to meet bail conditions. Court adjourns hearing to January 24. We can read that story on page 28. Looking at past judgments of corruption, bail is being given out. The people in question pay. But I'm wondering why Emefiele is finding it somehow difficult to pay his bail.
Let me speak pidgin English for you.
I'm listening.
Let me not na him be this.
No,
So any people that are supposed to help him pay, they are not ready to
They
pay.
are not
That's why
ready
I
to pay.
cannot make the bill.
And that's-
Because it's not
that's
him
the-
that will pay the bill.
that's
The
the irony
one
bill
that will
life.
pay.
are people.
And
So that is the irony of life
That's
now.
the irony of
So you fight. And when you start it, they will just leave you. And that is why you now see yourself as empty.
Alone.
So we have to be careful as humans.
and it's
Everybody's saving their head.
They don't. Nobody wants to stand for. And these are the people who will have help. He will have help. While he was
Definitely
in
now.
power, he will have one contract or the other. Like, now he's facing the music alone.
It is well. You can read that story on page 28. Senate passes Shia Alamity's book launch on Thursday. You can read that story on page 30. And that's all from the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
Thank you guys for that. We'll move on to the next segment, which is the past Solomon standing by for the wisdom segment. Over to you, sir.
Your night. I hope your night was splendid. My own was splendid, oh. I thank God, oh. Sifa Solomon is hale and hearty, oh. The Bible is my watchword, oh. You see, today is to God be the glory, oh. If you are meeting me for the first time, my name is Pastor Solomon, and this is Word of Wisdom segment. Today, when I say, the word of wisdom I have for you today, Wednesday. How you never begin. Let me repeat myself. The only impossible journey is the one you never begin. The journey you never begin. You never start. That is the only impossible one. But the one you have started is not impossible again. Because you've already embarked on it. You've already started. So you can still make things straight. You see? That job, that business that you lay your hands on, it seems difficult. It looks impossible to you. But you have already started. It is impossible. That mathematics is not impossible. You can still know it. Yes. This disease or sickness you are having, it is not impossible for lay your hands on at all. That is those things that looks impossible. The ones who have started already, there's no impossibility. You will succeed in the name of Jesus. So I don't want you to develop fear. That is just the word of it. It's not impossible again. You will complete it. It shall be a success. In the name of Jesus. Your marriage shall be a success. Your relationship shall be a success. That your company shall be a success. In the name of your ministry shall be a success. In the name of Jesus. Tomorrow we shall see so. I remember Solomon. Bye.
Welcome back from that break from Past Solomon. And moving on to the discussion topics that we have today, we'll be talking about indigenous or English language. Which should a child learn first? Indigenous or English language? Which should a child learn first? We would like viewers to call in when you see the numbers on your screen to interact with us, to tell us which of the language should the child learn first. And I want to start like this. In the country of Nigeria, that we have 525 native language. Which of the language will you want your child to learn first? Is it the native language or the official language? Or both, or the child should learn both or learn any of each? So, Jeff, which of the language would you like your children to learn first? Is it the indigenous or the English language?
I mean, pity me in the state I am now. You have to see me and start to say, Jeff, I pity you, and start to fan me, because to some extent you can say I'm a confused man, but I'm not a confused man. I pray that my children will not be like that, because I'm a gentleman from Isoko. My wife is Esther from they go to school or they are playing now, Yoruba person will be there speaking Yoruba. And in the house, when I want to say Nyanze, at that time, Mama will say, come, in our own language. So it's really complicated. But back to what the question you asked. Okay, you have said it. So automatically, that is why we are speaking their language. If it was the French that came, we'll be speaking French. If it was the Portuguese, like we have in Agonla and some other parts of the African countries, we'll be speaking Portuguese. And now we are talking about indigenous language, and you talked about having about 500 and something languages in Nigeria. Is something that is a big issue. Why is a big issue is because dwelling so much on this official language make us to speak good English. It's not good to be good. It's not good to be fluent, because to some extent, you have to communicate, and that is our major official language. But it makes us to lose where we are coming from. And I know that at a point, the language of teaching should be on the indigenous language. But to some extent, that will not work, because we have diverse languages in Nigeria. If it was a country that have one language, maybe like and better what he or she is being taught when you speak in the indigenous language. That is what they say. I'm not an educationist, but that is what we're going to find out. But how do we do that? For someone like me, like I said, Isoko man, Idoma wife, your children stay in Yoruba land. Will I allow my child to be taught with Yoruba situation we have in Nigeria? So on a personal note, I will think I will leave it for the last. What I will say, I will leave it for the last, because it boils down to the home again. A big part in this discussion. The home has a big part to play, because you just have to find
indigenous language. This is the language by which a child is first exposed to. Whatever the parent choose in communicating to that child is that child's first language. B, the language is English, which is the official language. But if you are talking about indigenous language now, is the first language by which a child is first exposed to within the critical period of the child's growth. So it now depends on the parent, the choice of language which the parent decides on. We still talk about those, the advantage and disadvantage of those indigenous language. But because of education in this part of this world, or in this part of this country, most people want to use the official language in communicating to their child. But if you go to less education, educated cannot be overemphasized. So most people, even before exposing their children to the official language, they prefer exposing their children to their indigenous languages.
All right, as for me, I'm like Jeff also. My dad is from Ondo State. So I was speaking English but when I was in school, all my friends always make jest of me that whenever Biodun is on the phone, when she's speaking English, you know that she's speaking with her dad. Immediately she switch to Yoruba, you know that that's her mom that she's speaking to. So it was when we were around 6, when we moved to another area, that we were able to associate with other children. That was when we were able to hear the native language of their own. And I always like the other tribe, the Igbo tribe. They're always teaching their own children, even other language, and even in the percentages, Hausa that is most language that many people hear and they understand well. What will you say? What is the benefit of learning your native language, your indigenous language?
In school, let me start from here. In school, the indigenous, it was when we were in my secondary school, we were taught you have to choose 3 languages. So you have to pick one to learn in school there. So as it's good, actually, before going to the school to learn that, it's good for parents to teach their children their indigenous language right from when they are still small, because it's to now go to the benefits. It helps the language not to go into extinction, when they are not to speak it, you know, the Yoruba we are even speaking today is not the deep Yoruba, it's the surface Yoruba. The deep Yoruba, if normally, let me give an example. The surface Yoruba is, for example, if I want to say it, English is stealing. The surface Yoruba is onjale, but being upheld by our parents. Then, as you said, our parents, they want their children, I want my child to be able to speak, and it's mostly common in the Yoruba land. Sorry to say, but it's common in the Yoruba land. That's why that deep Yoruba is not as it is before. It was in school I got to know that we have surface Yoruba and deep Yoruba. It was in school I knew that some words, this is what this person is saying. And as I said, it's common to Yoruba land because our parents believe that I want my child to be able to speak English. Out there, the official language of Nigeria, the lingua franca is English. And I want my child to be able to communicate with outside there with English. But because of that, it has affected the Yoruba. It's not even not taking, the deep Yoruba is already going into extinction. We will just have the surface Yoruba. So to avoid all this, it's better we speak with our children in the indigenous language to avoid the language going into extinction. Looking at Hausa, looking at Igbo, when they speak, they even there are some type of people, there are some type simple Igbo, let me put it that way. You will say it, you will understand. A person that we have multilinguals that can speak more than one to two languages. We have people who can speak Yoruba, who can speak Hausa, who can speak Igbo. So type of people, they said if they don't want them to hear what they are saying, they go into the deep Igbo to speak, and you go into extinction, but Yoruba on the other side, because of civilization and the rest, deep Yoruba is getting into extinction.
Thank you, but I want us to know that it's not about just one language we are talking about here. It's not about Yoruba language. We have, like she said we have over 500 languages in Nigeria. So we should not live in deep Yoruba. What of in a state like Delta State that we have over 6 languages? Our lingua franca, to where we come from, is Pidgin. We speak Pidgin. Even the average child in the village, if you follow you in Pidgin and you go run, because that is how it is. That is how they can understand themselves. Because you have Urobo, you have Isoko, you have Yoruba. We have a whole lot of languages. The thing is, the family, what are they doing to the child? You have said it in the right way. The more we focus on this English, our local language goes into extinction. And let's not forget, we have seen people from Brazil coming here to learn Yoruba. I saw a documentary on that. Coming here to learn Yoruba because they know that it's very, very important.
Sorry, Jeff. Yesterday night, I saw a video of a Chinese guy and a Yoruba. This Chinese guy speaks Hausa. It was a conference in Chinese, and the guy is, I think he's also a news person. So he was interviewing the Igbo man. Both of them were interacting. It's very difficult for you to learn language. You have to take it. We have seen white guys, European guys who are speaking Yoruba fluently, and then they also come to Nigeria to study our languages, and that means to tell us how important our languages are, the beauty of our language outside the shore of Nigeria. But we
and I'll quickly add, in this profession, trying to come up in this profession, I was thinking I should have to be very, very, I'm not saying that you don't have to be eloquent and good with your choice of words and English, but I was trying to be so funny until I got to read about somebody who is a doyen in this industry, and I read and he said you are staying with the Queen of England or the King of England. No, just be able to express yourself,
simple.
pronounce the words as they be. That's all, and that's what. And people need to get that. Although that is another talk for another day. But I know as we are going on, the viewers at home watching too might have their own idea about this whole thing. The indigenous language should be the first language for a child to learn, or the English language should be the first child to learn. And they can always, like you said, they can drop their comment for us to read through, because it's a big issue. Very big issue. This thing that we are not even trivializing it, but it's a big issue because we are born through it. Because where it comes from, it doesn't understand this language, and it doesn't feel bad about it. Maybe because while he was growing up in his house, the parents didn't speak
Speak it.
their Isoko to him. Maybe they were speaking English and hopefully Yoruba. And you won't blame when you go to school, you will see people speaking Yoruba. And you come back home, I'm telling you, Diwekome, Benekome, and all that, and you're like, what,
And the
what
child
it?
is even
Yeah.
confused about what.
So it's a big one.
But Jeff, on that, do you know that the environment at times is not really a factor? It's the parents now. Now, what you communicate with your children or your child at home is what the child will understand. You will only can speak their dialect fluently, can speak other language which they are exposed to fluently, and can still speak official language fluently. I have seen people that way. And before you know that they come from another part of the country, they will have interacted with you in their own dialect, in your own dialect, before you could confirm. We have such in our office. Mary can speak country, and yet, so it depends on how we expose our children, what we expose our children to. I saw a video of a guy who had his children in the UK. They were born and brought up in UK, and he decided that he will be teaching his children. They are grown-up children. They read. You're using Yoruba Bible to teach them. So all of them, they are learning Yoruba Bible to speak Yoruba, and the more they read it, the more they make mistake, the more they correct themselves, the more they are getting it better. That is trying to say that you being abroad does not mean that you lost your roots. So teaching our dialect is a way of preserving. I think there's a particular day in the assembly that they use Yoruba for their meetings in their and even it is a compulsory language subject for every student in Lagos State, just to preserve.
Back to the question on the topic we are discussing. Then, from what you have said and what I believe, because the formative years of a child is between 1 and 5,
6.
or 6. Okay. So, in that years, what they gain stick with the child on their indigenous language for those years. Make sure they are saying it to them in one way or the other. If they go to school and they are speaking the English, fine. But as soon as they get home, if you want them to pick a bottle of water for you, if you want them to pick a pencil for you, anything, say it in Yoruba, say language. Let's not forget that this English is a borrowed language, whether we like it or not.
Abigail, what would you say about the advantages of learning your indigenous language? Because a lot of people, it has made way for them, open way for them by knowing their indigenous language and speaking about it.
It's one of the advantages of learning indigenous language. It preserves the language, and it also and how unique our culture is here in Nigeria. We have others, as John said, we have other countries that are willing to learn our culture, to learn our language, to even dress the way we dress, to even try eating the food we are eating. So it preserves our culture and it promotes the language. We call it indigenous language, and looking at the point of view, looking at where this indigenous language is going to, it's already becoming an international language because of people wanting to learn how to. I've seen videos of the whites singing songs in Yoruba language. Even there was a time they premiered the movie by the whites abroad. They did that stage play in Yoruba language. It's actually a Yoruba playlet. And those whites, they did as they spoke in Yoruba, and they played it out. So it preserves our culture, it promotes our culture, it helps our culture not to go into extinction. It helps our belief, our traditions. Looking at, because many people, I'm not in support of it, but most of this traditional, I saw a video on this week or last week, I guess, where the situations happening in Lagos, the life of Lagos was taken abroad. A form of carnival abroad.
It's a carnival,
They did a
yes.
carnival abroad, and it was promoting, let me just say, because Lagos culture, which is also Yoruba. So it helps to promote our culture and preserves it. That's what I can say.
Okay, before you continue, somebody, just like what I said in the beginning, that children study, somebody wrote here that indigenous language provides a child with the tool to think, learn, express themselves effectively. It allows them to grasp complex concepts and also grasp their children who are proficient in their mother tongue tend to perform better academically overall. So, and that is what developed countries have done, or developing Sweden, a lot of countries, they have said for a child, you are coming to school, 1 to 6 is this language you are speaking. Don't teach them any other language. If you are solving mathematics for them, you are solving the maths with your language. Okan, Meji, plus plus. And it has helped to preserve their language, their heritage, their culture, and the likes.
Well, we always talk about the disadvantage because a lot of people are regretting now that they don't understand their indigenous language, and most of them are not even in the country to understand or learn. I've seen viewers that people will bring out their children from abroad to come and stay with their grandma to learn 1 or 2 things about their language so that they'll be able to speak and understand. So what are the disadvantages, Jeff?
Well, the disadvantage is when you are in the crowd or somewhere you are new to, and then you know this indigenous language have saved many people from trouble. You just speak your language. Somebody who is there, who hears you, can point to you and say, okay, this is my brother from another from in another no man's land. So it's the advantage. Okay, we're talking about the disadvantage. It's just that where you need help, you might not be able to get help. I love the Hausa's part of this world. Once you just say Rankadede to them, it's just a pass for you to get attention. So you might need attention sometimes because you can't speak that language. Your brother may not be able to help you because he might see you as a foreigner in that situation, and you might not be able to get help that you need to get, and also to communicate with your tribal guys. You might not be able to have that privilege. You will not be fluent. You will not be free to communicate. It will just hamper your way of communicating with others. So it will isolate you. You might not be able to interact well with other people that are of your same language.
All right.
I don't think I owe them apology, but they have to take them to be flogged on a regular basis, because I don't think any sane parent will say their children should not learn their language. What doesn't make sense. It's really bad. I would advise them to take it very seriously, because no matter how you tend to be like them, they will never regard you as them. Should I take it again? Punchline. No matter how you tend to be like them, they will never regard you like them. Speak this English more than the Englishman, you will be a second-class citizen there. Yeah. Speak the French more than the France people, you will be a second-class citizen. But if you speak your language, you will never be a second-class citizen to teach their words, their little ones, because there's a whole lot to gain from it. Teach them that indigenous language. I'm not saying that we should not learn the English, because you go out, you communicate, especially when you meet somebody from another country, another tribe, use English as an official language, but as it's been.
To quickly add up and conclude what Jeff has said, and to also support what Sanusi has said, there was this man, experience that someone shared. He wanted to process his visa or his passport, I guess, to travel out for a work, something, and the person that was supposed to do it, they said the deadline has passed someone. I was speaking his dialect to that person. So the security man had that dialect and told him that when he finished his call, he was like, he now spoke back to him in the same dialect. Sir, I hope no problem in his dialect. I can see that you're from my place, this, and the man now told him what happened. And he said, okay, go to this person's office. If you go there, they'll do this for you, and you'll be able to do what you want to do, even when the deadline is over. And he followed the person's advice, and the man, it was approved for him, and he went for his official assignment outside. So that's one of the advantages of knowing your dialect. It's, as John has said, it opens doors for you when you least expect it.
All right, so guys, thank you for your contribution. And I want to say that parents, let's make sure that we teach our children both the indigenous and the official language that they are from, and be able to speak and associate with their family and their friends and people that they have a culture and be able to speak their indigenous language and also the official language. And you can watch the repeat broadcast of this program by 10 p.m. and by tomorrow we'll bring another episode. For now.